think a very unexpected side effect of these drugs is going to be the reduction in addiction. So I own a consulting company, and most of the consulting I do is on lifestyle. So that's nutrition, exercise, activity, etc. And most of my clients are individuals who are looking to improve upon either their body composition or overall health. Now, in the last few years, most of you, especially if you're watching this video, you've likely heard of Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever those drugs are, right? There's a few other drugs out there, but those are brand names of GLP-1 agonist drugs. We do have now on the market a GLP-1 plus GIP agonist drug called Tirzepatide. I almost lost Tirzepatide. And there's a drug that is not FDA approved yet, but it is starting to pick up a lot of steam, not only in the bodybuilding community and the life hacking community and in the holistic community even. But this drug is a 3-part drug. It's called Retatrutide, and it is a GLP-1 agonist, a GIP agonist, and as well as a glucagon agonist. And here's the crazy part here. This glucagon pathway that it works on not only improves a lot of markers that are creating a lot of chronic health conditions for people. So we're looking at improvement upon insulin sensitivity, A1C, those sorts of things. But this glucagon pathway, and I'll need to look into it a bit more, seems to have a positive impact on the hypothalamus in the brain, which is essentially your homeostasis center. And that homeostasis center is also where a lot of patterns are controlled. And so one of the biggest carryovers for this drug has, and for a lot of people, for myself included, has been not only the reduction in food noise. So yeah, you get the GLP-1 stuff, the lack of hunger, those sorts of things. And yes, I'm already losing a significant amount of weight, which is interesting. I'm already fairly lean as it is. But you get this reduction in food noise at a very high level. So if you're someone who craves junk food and shit like that all the time, that goes away. But the second part is if you're someone who's struggling with, let's say it's alcoholism or any sort of addiction to any drug, I can't speak on those because I don't have those problems, but I do struggle with having my mind be in other places all the time. It's been so much easier for my mind to be focused on work, focused on my clients, focused on the task at hand, rather than this squirrel, and not in like a ADHD or attention deficit type way. It's the things that are chronically on your mind, almost like an addiction, right? Like think about something that you wake up every day thinking about. You know, a lot of people have porn addictions. A lot of people have cannabis addictions or some sort of drug addiction. I do believe that for maybe some people, because everyone responds differently to drugs, there is going to be a huge positive carryover in reduction in addiction markers for a lot of people. Now, I documented my 7 days of experience. I'm gonna play that in here. And then after you've watched through those, they're actually shared reels. So I apologize for the screen turning smaller again, but listen to it because the information is good. And then I'll come back here and I'll kind of give some closing thoughts as I start my second week. I started the first week on a 0.5 milligram. The half-life of this drug is 7 days, so there should be like a 1/4 milligram of the drug left in my system yesterday. I redosed today with 0.75 milligrams, so there should be 1 milligram of the drug left in my system. But like I said, watch these and then wait till the end here. I'll come back and I'll give some closing thoughts, and then I'll let you know what's gonna happen next as far as information and stuff here. And if you have any questions on this drug or whatever it is, leave them in the comments. I'll answer any questions that anyone has, or comments or concerns or whatever it is. Like I said, this is not an FDA approved drug. This is something that you have to get from research companies. And so I know certain people feel that way, but I wanted to be on the front side of this. A lot of my clients were starting to ask not only about GLP-1 drugs, but about this drug specifically. And I had some individuals who I consider mentors in my life. Another one is someone who I have actually had as a mentor previously, have really good results with this drug, and he was talking about it quite a bit. And so, you know, he and I shared some information, and again, I trust his opinion, his thoughts surrounding things very much. So anyway, here's my 7-day experience. Check these out. It is day 1 of an 8-week experiment with Retatrutide. Almost everyone's heard of Ozempic, and Ozempic is a GLP-1 agonist drug. Retatrutide is a GLP-1 agonist, as well as a GIP agonist, a glucagon receptor agonist, which means instead of working on the singular pathway like Ozempic, it works on a triple part pathway. And so mine arrived this morning, and I'm going to start at a 0.5 milligram per week and titrate up. That means increase the dose. to approximately 2 milligrams a week and then stay there for 4 weeks minimum. And so I took a 0.5 milligram this morning and I'm already feeling a reduction in my appetite. I'm very in tune with my body and I had to force myself to eat my first lunch meal as I just didn't feel hungry. And to start here, I'm going to keep my calories and macros the same and see if I have a shift in my body composition without any change in calories or macros. Because for a lot of people, they're using this drug in a high enough dose to get the side effect of not having an appetite that they previously had. So really they're reducing calories. However, these drugs tout being good for overall metabolic health and in fact increasing best metabolic rate or basal metabolic rate. So if I don't change my calories or macros, I should be able to see a change in my body composition while using a minimal effective dose and also be able to solidify the fact that these drugs do improve basal metabolic rate and metabolic health. And so if you guys want daily updates on this, let me know. Day 2 of my experiment with Retatrutide. And just to recap here, I'm starting off with a very low dose, 1/2 milligram per week. And then I'm going to titrate up based on how I feel. And as I'm someone who's very in tune with my body, it's very easy for me to notice any differences in how I feel. So yesterday's experience was definitely not placebo. I can feel a marked reduction in my hunger and food noise. Particularly because I'm normally someone who is thinking about food and I feel hungry all the time. And when I say hungry, I don't mean actual hunger. My energy levels are good. I eat enough calories for my personal goal currently, but it's the food noise driving this desire to eat junk food primarily, which I don't give into, but nonetheless, the noise is there and it's been gone for the last 2 days. So although I have really good discipline to not eat shitty foods, it's much easier when those thoughts aren't even there in the first place, which has been nice. I'd also said yesterday that I may be experiencing some testiness or a lack of patience. That was just situational yesterday. I feel great today. I've had great patience and feel normal. And something else I noticed this morning that I'll give a few more days until I actually dive a bit deeper into this, but I normally have a couple of things that are on my mind, like first thing in the morning. When I woke up this morning, I realized that feeling or those thoughts weren't there, and I hadn't previously realized that having those thoughts not be there gave me more energy for other things, gave me more mental space, more decision room before I reach decision fatigue. So this is update number 2. Let me know if you got any questions in the comments. And I just want to give context to that last statement. So one of the air quote side effects of these drugs, so these GLP-1 agonist plus, right, which is what Retatrutide is. It's a 3-part pathway drug. Some of the studies have shown that it has helped individuals with addictions, right, overcome these things. I can definitely see that on the food side for a lot of people, because at the end of the day, that's what this is for a lot of us, is psychological addiction to food. And for me, like I said, noticing that I normally have something else on my mind that wasn't on my mind this morning was very interesting, if not eye-opening. Day 3 update with Retatrutide. Still, the biggest thing I'm noticing is just the overall absence of food noise. Like today, I have a 25,000 step day. My gym's about 4.1 miles away. I walked there, trained legs, walked back, had a Premier protein shake on the way back. And I normally fast until about 1 p.m. every day. Anyway, it is almost 3 p.m. and I am having to not force myself to eat, but say, okay, it's time to get this first meal in so I can make sure I hit all my macros for the day. And normally I would be dying to get this first meal and just can't wait for this first meal again. I genuinely couldn't care less right now. And for me, that is a very unusual feeling because like I said, I normally am someone that cannot wait to get my next meal in. And currently experiencing 0 side effects. So no gastrointestinal distress, no delay in digestion or anything else. Something interesting too is my weight was very similar this morning as it was to yesterday morning, but I looked drier and fuller. So I'm wondering if the glucagon pathway is actually driving some more intracellular either nutrients or fluid, because looking drier and harder but being the same weight would mean that some of these nutrients and or fluid have gotten pushed into the muscles more efficiently, which is a good thing. Stay tuned for updates, leave a comment or shoot me a DM if you have any questions. Day 4 update on Retatrutide. Haven't changed my calories at all, but today I woke up the lightest I've been in like the last week. Mind you, I did walk 25,000 steps yesterday and sweat a lot, but I hydrated properly. My hydration levels should be in check. That shouldn't factor in, but I'm going to check again in the morning just to make sure. And similar story to the last couple days, the biggest thing I'm noticing is still the lack of desire to eat garbage ass food. Like normally around this time on a Sunday, my brain will start saying, you should go get a burger, or maybe some cakes or donuts, or maybe just a cookie or two that you can make fit your macros. And then I have to have the internal battle with myself and say, no, fat fuck, don't go do that. Just eat the food you have in the refrigerator already made. Because even when you do eat that garbage ass food, you're not going to be satisfied with it. You're going to want to eat more. So eat your regular fucking dinner, fat lard. Just do it. And because that noise is not there, it's very interesting to me because throughout my entire life, that type of noise has been there. And I've created the discipline to not give into that bullshit most of the time. But to not have it there in the first place is a motherfucking win. 5 of my experiment with Reta. New low weight again this morning, and that's confirmed with proper hydration levels. And I had a few people DM me asking about side effects. I'm having 0. The reason I'm having 0 is because I'm starting at 1/4 of the recommended starting dose. And this particular drug is not FDA approved yet. So the only way that people are getting it is by research only peptide places. You aren't going to get this from your doctor. However, I want to be on the front side of the experimentation with this so I can properly guide my clients. What I'm seeing is a lot of people using semaglutide and tirzepatide secretly because either they're ashamed of it or whatever, and they're being overprescribed either one of these medications and getting a lot of shitty side effects. I feel like this is a problem across the board in our medical fields because it's financially driven and people go off of singular studies instead of a broad spectrum. I don't know why the mentality in this country is to always start a drug really fucking high. You can start a dosing very low, see how an individual responds, whether that's positive or negative, and you can always titrate that drug up. Like we do this with ibuprofen. Like the ibuprofen that you buy over the counter is normally 200 milligrams for 1 pill. But if you get a doctor prescribed ibuprofen, it's 800 fucking milligrams. You take a couple too many of those in a day and you're gonna have some problems. Same shit is happening here with these GLP-1 plus drugs. And yes, with this new low total body weight, I am noticing some leanness everywhere, just throughout my entire body. Also, and I spoke about this as well, the noise is carrying over into other things. I had stated yesterday or day before that it's not just food noise. It's not just the lack of desire to eat garbage ass food, but it's other things that are always on my mind that just don't seem to be on my mind that I didn't even recognize before. And I think a lot of this has to do with the glucagon pathway and how it interacts with your hypothalamus in your brain. I'm going to keep studying on that, and the more information I learn about it, because the hypothalamus is basically your brain's center for homeostasis, so what brings you back to normal. So this is where I think these drugs are they're gonna be more than just fat loss drugs. These are gonna be drugs that help people with addiction, that help people with mental health issues, etc. Because I'm already feeling 5 days in the positive effects of not having these noises, if you will. And it's not just food, it's some other things that I don't want to get into just here yet, but like some other things that I constantly have noise about that just isn't there. I also have a greater overall sense of well-being, and I'm very in tune with my body, and nothing else has changed besides the introduction of this drug. So more on that. Day 6 on Retatrutide. Woke up again this morning with the new low weight. So I was 206.9 a week ago. I was 203.3 this morning. I had a bit more carbohydrate yesterday than I normally do, and I thought I was going to be fuller this morning, larger appearing, and I wasn't. However, I do feel as if I did not consume enough water yesterday, so I will do that. I will properly hydrate today, make sure that's a thing, and then I will take a look at myself in the morning and see if I look bigger, fuller, harder tomorrow, because I'm lighter, but I feel less full today, so I feel some of that may just be dehydration. We shall see. Food noise is still not there, which is great. Appetite is still blunted a little bit, which is great. That just makes things easier for me. Like I've said before a few times here, I have to eat fairly low calories anyway to get a good aesthetic result when it comes to fat loss. All of us are genetically different in terms of how many calories we need per day. And the carbohydrate piece here is interesting to me because I had another friend, individual of mine who is in the coaching space, business owner as well, and I value his opinion very much. He's a very well-educated dude in this space, and he was saying that very much like me, he and I have very similar genetics, that he doesn't handle carbohydrate very well, but with Retatrutide, he was able to double, if not triple at times, his carbohydrate intake and still be able to lose some fat. So it's very interesting. Like I said, there's a lot of things that Retatrutide, the glucagon pathway specifically, impacts the hypothalamus in the brain, which is kind of our central for homeostasis. That was the word I was looking for. And the food noise aspect is still blunted I feel like the same as it was the very first day, but I can tell that the appetite piece is starting to come back a little bit. So this drug has a 7-day half-life. And what that means is, so for me, for example, I took a 0.5 milligram of the drug. That means that on day 7, there will be 0.25 milligrams of that drug left in my system. I'm going to then take 0.75 milligrams on this Thursday. And basically on Thursday, I will have 1 milligram of the drug in my system. Now, I am going to be much more leery, or at least looking out for side effects, because that is double the amount of drug that was in my system as it would have been on last Thursday. If that doesn't make sense, go back and listen to this again. That's a great explanation of how half-life works. And I guess I'll take this moment to explain that is why I think that people are taking too high of doses, right? People are like, oh, you should start at 2 milligrams. Well, cool. If you take 2 milligrams on, let's say, a Monday, and then next Monday, the half-life is 7 days, and you take another 2 milligrams, that next Monday, now there's 3 milligrams of that drug in your system. And this is what happens with these drugs. They continue to compound on one another until these side effects build up to intolerable levels. This shit is valuable as fuck. How come people aren't sharing it? Share my shit! Day 7 of my experiment with Reta. So yesterday I explained drug half-life, so if you didn't see that video, go back and watch that video. But today, there will only be 25 milligrams of this drug left in my system. In that last segment, I said 25 milligrams. I meant 0.25 milligrams. And while I'm super stoked that the food noise is still gone, I can definitely feel that my appetite is coming back. So I'm actually pretty excited for tomorrow to see how another 0.75 milligrams, which will bring the total concentration of the drug up to 1 milligram in my system, is going to carry over. Now, up to this point, I haven't had any negative side effects. I thought on 1 or 2 days, I might have been slightly more gassy, but also I had different food sources those days, so that could have been it. So up to this point, all of my side effects have been positive. I also made sure yesterday that my hydration levels were in check for today, and my weight is the same. So I'm very interested to see how this next 7 days is going to go with double the amount of the drug in my system, at least for the first couple of days. And share all of my findings with you. And I know there's a group of you who are watching these religiously. I appreciate you, number one. Number two, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, leave them in the comments, shoot me a DM, do whatever you need to do. I want to know what people want to know about these compounds so that I can monitor them and myself and then speak on them. I think next week on at least a couple of the days, I'm going to throw some fasted glucose levels as well as probably 2 hours post-feeding glucose levels here as well. And both of those markers for me are always on the low side of normal anyway. So I'm curious to see if they're going to take it lower or it's going to stay the same. Because for people who are using these drugs, not just primarily for weight loss, that is where a lot of the positive benefit will be. Because obviously, yes, losing weight in general and being less fat makes positive impacts on so many things, but blood glucose level, long-term A1C is such a definitive marker for prolonged chronic illness that if we can bring that down, that's literally a life-changing, life-saving marker. I would need to find someone to test these drugs with that has a high A1C first, because I'm not that person. Nonetheless, I'm still curious to see if it's brought my blood glucose levels lower. So we'll see. Chat soon. All right, so that was my 7-day recap of my first week with Retatrutide. Again, started at a 0.5 milligram. That half-life brings it down to 1/4 of a milligram. I did 3/4 of a milligram today. I will keep updated here once a week and then over on my Instagram on a daily basis for the time being. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or just anything in general regarding whether it's Retatrutide or how to use it in conjunction with a nutrition plan that you're following, leave a comment below. My Instagram is at the.coach.phil. Do me a huge favor, and if you're not going to go over there and follow me, I'd greatly appreciate it if you did, though. Hit me with a subscribe here, and let me know what other type of content regarding this subject or nutrition you'd like to hear. Later.